I've been carrying that since I'm looking at the lens from an 8 or 9-year-old boy. That's how I've been viewing my life, through that lens of that little boy, thinking like, hey man, like you're too young to lead this. You gotta, because I had to pick that position up from, and then granted, my mom assumed all the financial and responsibility and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I think it was a lot of my mindset, because I had to take care of my sister because she's handicapped. I had to, there was a lot that came with that. And people would be like, oh, you're like her dad. She looks at you like her dad. I was like 10 years old, bro. Like,
we rise to the top, can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Roundtable here with Ben. What's going on, man?
What's going on, bro?
It was a good little catch up.
Yeah, man.
There was some good information in there.
We might drop a little,
Yeah.
couple snippets or something, a couple short little 3-minute, 4-minute episode. I don't know. That was some good stuff.
Yeah,
I had the mic away from me, so I don't know how good the audio will be, but
Yeah, you pulled it closer towards the end.
we'll see. But sometimes it's just good to chat, bro.
Yeah.
This one thing I never wanted to make this podcast into, like, it's this like super formal, with guests. I think we have to be super formal, but sometimes it's just good to just chat. That's what we started this whole thing, was just saying, let's just catch up sometimes. And
I mean, if as formal as it gets, and hopefully some of the people can agree that we try to make it pretty. You got to ask some questions. You got to dig a little bit, but we try to just, for the most part, talk and let them share what they're here to share. Their
stories,
so.
Man. I keep hearing that too. I forgot to mention that. I kept hearing last night, everybody has a story. Everybody's got a story. Everybody I talked to that was on the personal growth journey was like, oh yeah, I just got into this because I wanted to share a story.
And some of them may not be so much personal. They might be a business growth, but they've had to grow personal to get to that point too.
Yeah.
So, or how they took an idea and evolved it into what they're doing now, which is, we got a guy I'm trying to get on now for that. So
yeah, stories are I feel like what connect us, and there's true value in each individual story. And I think we've talked about this when we started the pod, like our stories are unique in our own sense, but they connect us through other people, through similarities and what we have gone through. And I didn't mention this earlier before we started recording, but one of the guys that I met that we'll have on, he's got a similar story, works with suicide prevention and all this type of stuff. And so he's like, I was suicidal as well. And the gym saved his life.
Yeah, been there.
So I was like, man, you gotta meet my buddy, man. He's got a similar story to you, not exactly like yours, but it's very similar. And it just reminded me, like, stories aren't always the same, but they connect. When you connect with somebody on something, you're like, I feel you.
Yeah.
So, anyways, man, yeah, it's been a hell of a week, bro, for all of us, for both of us, and for our families. And it's getting hot outside, bro. Fuck, bro. I don't know what's going on. I told Taylor, I was like, it's freaking like 90 degrees, almost 100 degrees. Like, it's June. We're not even got to July yet. July's usually...
but then we also had like a 50-degree day in the middle of June. Like, who knows what the hell?
It's still Utah, bro. Like, it's still gonna remind you, like, I do what I want.
That's fair.
So, but yeah, man, it's been a hell of a week for both of us, and I'm glad we were able to catch up. So,
yeah,
and we wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that either are limiting us in our growth or have limited us. Because I know that we've both done some personal growth, and we've changed some of those stories or rewriting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, man, that's where I wanted to hit on. I guess I wanted to ask you: when was it that you realized that maybe you were telling yourself some stories, like that you had stories and that you could even rewrite them? Because for me, it took a long time. Like I barely found out that I was that these stories were even being told in my own head.
I did figure a little bit out when my wife started doing all her changes, because same thing. And that's her story to tell. But, that was a story that she had told herself. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I can make some changes, but I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, man, it was like I said, I I honestly didn't know how many stories I was telling about myself.
I think that's the thing is you might be changing in one area, but then you have to slowly start changing the story for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I might have changed, okay, now I'm going to the gym. But then it's like, now I got to change the story where I tell myself I need to eat better, or I can eat whatever I want,
Right.
which is still working on changing that story. Or, okay, if I want to do whatever, I mean, it doesn't
Right.
matter. You got to figure out if you want to change the story to it.
Right. Right. Even like the big breakthrough for me this week that specifically got the ball rolling, and this is just going a little deeper into that, was the conversation around leadership, which we were just literally talking about before
Yeah.
we started this episode. And how even and I say this not to brag, I say this as a fact, as a truth, and how I've carried myself, but as a 15-year-old when I started working at Wendy's, within that first job, that was my very first real job, right? I mean, I did like cutting grass and shit like that, but that was my real first like corporate job. I was offered like a manager position. I was 15 years old. They were like, "Oh man, like you're a go-getter, like you lead people, blah blah." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And that started my like wanting to lead people and help people. But that also started, I don't want to say started. That's the first time that I heard an older person say, "You're younger than me. Why would I need to follow you? What makes you better?" And this was like an old Mexican couple. You know, they're probably long gone now. I don't know. Their grandparents, I don't know. They're pretty old when I met them at the time. But that was the first time that I heard that, and that stuck with me for a lot of. And I don't say that to brag. I mean, I think I would say 90% of the positions that I've had through or companies that I worked with, I've always had a leadership position or some sort of it. And so I started thinking, and I've always had this mindset of like, man, I'm too young. Like, I'm too young. Why would these people want to follow me? And I think even when Dominic was here, Jeremy was here, I harped on those. I'd ask them those questions because those are questions that internally I wanted to hear from them. Be like, how did they get through it? Because I would say I'm fairly young compared to some of the rooms that I'm in. The people that I'm in, I would say 98% of those, I'm the youngest person in the room. And I still have those thoughts. I still have that feeling of like, well, I'm too young to like. What are these guys gonna get from me? They have more wisdom because they have age, and so I started talking through this with my therapist, and she's like, "Well, let's take that back a little bit. Like, how old do you feel?" I was like, I don't know, like 8 or 9, and I was like, she's like, and as I said it, I was like, oh. She's like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, that's when my dad died." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, let's dig on that." And I was like, well, you know, and we've talked about this. When my dad died, I was like, "Oh, people told me, you're the man of the house now.
Yeah.
It's all you." And that connected with me. I was like, fuck, I've been carrying that since I'm looking in the lens from an 8 or 9-year-old boy. That's how I've been viewing my life, through that lens of that little boy, thinking like, hey man, like you're too young to lead this. You gotta, because I had to pick that position up from, and then granted my mom assumed all the financial and responsibility and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I think it was a lot of my mindset, and because I had to take care of my sister because she's handicapped. I had to, there was a lot that came with that. And people would be like, "Oh, you're like her dad. She looks at you like her dad." I was like 10 years old, bro. Like, the fuck? You know what I mean? And so I carried that, and I've been carrying it for the last, however, 9 to, I'm now 35. And that, up to this week, that realization that I've been telling that story to myself is saying, hey man, you're too young. You're too young to lead these people. But it came from a boy that was put in a position that, I felt like he had to. where now I can look at in my true self and be like, no, man, you're not there no more. You are old enough. You've look at all the things you've accomplished without bragging and without building too big of a head and still staying humble. You could tell yourself those things and say, like, I've done good. I could tell myself a new story. And that's where everything kind of like started coming from. And I was like, it was just such an overwhelming experience. And we were talking about, I was actually telling Taylor the other night, Gamory's been, was here on Wednesday, and she was like on the phone all day. I'm gonna get emotional, bro. She was upstairs, and I'm like walking in the room, and she's like on the phone, like talking to her friends, texting, and just living a good life. I don't know if I'm doing justice. I'm trying to paint a picture here, but I walk in, she's on the bed, and she's just, texting and talking with her friends on the phone, and they're playing and they're doing all this stuff. And I just walk in, I just smile, and I turn around, and then Taylor calls me a little bit later, and I'm like, hey, I was like, oh, it's just so cool just watching her have fun, be a kid. And I don't know why it hit me so hard, and I didn't know because this is before the session, And I was just like, wow, like I'm living vicariously through her. Like, that's so cool to see her do that. And Taylor's like, yeah, that's cool. I was like, you remember, right? Like when you were a kid, like that summer feeling when you're like hanging out with your friends and talking to your friends. And she's like, yeah. And then I started thinking, I was like, did I have those moments? And I was like, not really. And then when I got to working through this, I'm telling her therapist this information, and she's just like, she's like, yeah, like, how did that make you feel? And I just started bawling, dude. I'm tearing up right now, just thinking of like the happiness that I seen in my kid. And she's like, why does that hit you? She obviously knows, but they try to lead you. Why did they hit you so hard? And I was like, I guess because I didn't have that, And it's so cool to see her have that. Like, you want to see your kids.
Yeah.
We say be better, do better. But sometimes just like live better. Like, just, some of the things that we didn't get to experience. Like, you experienced that. And it was just so cool, man. Like, and I'm like breaking down, and I don't, I'm not a big crier, I would say. I mean, usually it's only to do with my wife and my kid or something. But in that moment, I'm just like bawling my eyes out in this office. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like, I don't know what's happening. And it was just, it was an interesting story that I was telling myself, which is true, right? Like, just because you're telling yourself a story doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean it's not a valid story. It's just not necessary, maybe, in that part of life that you're in now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, or it's time to start the new chapter, start the new book.
Yeah.
That's the way I like overall seeing this, because I've thought that a lot of times. Like I was watching a video, and it instantly made me think about how great it was that I could take my kids on this grand adventure that we went on earlier this year with them, like, yeah. And how amazing it was to watch them just be, wow, look at that, look how big, whatever, yeah. Like, and just enjoy it and remember those times, like,
yeah,
and be able to do it with family and, have a memorable time with them.
Yeah.
Like, but that might not have been part of my story if I hadn't changed the chapter.
Right.
For the better, to work on myself and become a better me. And, my wife doing it for herself, which again changed the life of all of us. It's stuff we wouldn't have done.
Right.
If the chapters hadn't been turned, the pages hadn't been turned.
Yeah, that's a lot of we've talked about that too, of how,
I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't decided to get out of that angry chapter,
mm-hmm.
and become a happier version of myself and start to learn that I can do things for me.
Right.
And that my happiness comes from me, not what's around me. Like that chapter, I wouldn't be here because if I hadn't decided that page needed to be turned.
Exactly. What I was going to say is that, like, even the awareness part, is a big part in that. Like you say, turning the chapter, creating the new chapters, the awareness that, hey, you've been on this chapter for a while, bro. Or that you've been telling yourself this story for a while, man. Like, I think it's time to change that.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part sometimes is the realization that you're living.
Somebody had posted something about like comfort is a dream killer or something like that. And I had replied to it like it's the ultimate dream killer.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And I mean, it's true. With what you're talking about is you need to get uncomfortable in order to grow.
Yeah.
You know, you had to be uncomfortable in that office, you know, crying to grow through the, oh my gosh, this is the lens I'm looking through. You know, I had to you have to get uncomfortable to show up to the gym and do the work or to put yourself out there to get a better job, you know, or whatever it might be. Discomfort, you know, if you're just going to sit there and be comfortable, you might still have dreams there and that's fine.
Right.
But the dreams might not grow like you want them to.
Exactly.
I mean, hell, we went and toured like a $20-30 million house or something together. We've looked at a handful of houses together over the last couple weeks through the parade of homes.
Yeah.
I mean, those people started with a dream.
Yep.
Like, and they were uncomfortable to get to the point that they're at. They went through hardships. They went through ups, downs, all of it.
Yeah.
You know, those builders didn't just show up day one and have billions of dollars, millions of dollars sitting there ready, clients knocking at their door. No, they had to build a portfolio, build time, build energy, like all the way down the chain, like the lands, all of it. They all had to have a dream. Every single one of these companies had to have a dream. They had to start a new chapter, become uncomfortable, and grow.
Yeah.
And quit telling themselves a story that they can't do it. I mean,
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to hit on. Yeah.
You know, and if you know, when it comes to me and what I'm doing, I'm like, I know what I can do. Like the drawings and stuff that I'm doing, we'll just go to that. Like, I know I'm capable of doing it. And the second I start doubting myself, I got to realize that I'm telling myself the story that, oh, you're never going to be good at it. No, it's not true. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like I made you know, whatever the case might be. This needs to be tweaked. I made a mistake, hit a wrong button, whatever. Take accountability, move on. Like the chapter needs to move. The pages keep turning.
Yeah.
But I can't tell myself that I can't revert back to that angry, I'm worthless shit person. That's not going to help me in that situation.
Right. Well, even that story, I mean, can you think of where that angry person comes from? Like where it stemmed from?
No. I always have been trying.
Or even how you got over it. 'Cause
even with the therapy and stuff, trying to figure out where it came from, I never could quite dial in, and I don't know that I really care, but I do care, but I'm also like, if I can just change the chapter, it doesn't, that part can stay where it needs to be.
Okay.
At least that's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
That could obviously change.
Of course.
What was the second part of your question?
I was saying, even if, or do you even know where, what did I ask? I asked you where it came from. I guess the only thing I could think of is like when you really got that realization moment that like, I'm ready to let this go.
It definitely started when we listened to Grover's speech.
Yeah.
At the Limitless event. Like,
then that really.
Yeah, I'm telling you, something about that speech like hit
Grover really dug deep on you in there.
Extra fucking hard. And I've messaged him, and you know, when he's put it on or just randomly messaged him, and he's like, well, I'm glad. He's like, I was worried people wouldn't understand it. And I'm like, well, if they don't, then whatever. You know,
you got one person that.
Yeah, I'm like, I understood it. I felt it.
That's so cool.
I needed it. But that chapter's been continuously worked and worked and reworked and worked. But that was probably that like pivotal moment. Like I learned, okay, I need to change things. And then just slowly through working obviously with my therapist and growing with myself and with my wife, it's the chapter's becoming better and better every day.
Yeah.
You know, the change of jobs helped a lot. Like there's a lot of different factors, but ultimately it all came down to me deciding to do something for me, and
Yeah.
happiness was the better option.
As it should be, right?
Yeah.
We should all be happier. But yeah, man, I just wanted to hit on that, dude. It was just a phenomenal experience for me. Something that I have not experienced before, and it was profound for me. It was
maybe
something that I feel like I
maybe
could.
this goes along with it. You can decide after I tell you, but
Yeah.
last night we were doing the s'mores, like I was telling you, spending
Uh-huh.
some family time together, just enjoying it outside, and talking to my youngest about how to roast a marshmallow. And part of me really wanted to just stay in the comfort of my chair and just sit there and just let her try to figure it out. But I was like, this is a time I can go over there and like kneel down with her and help her like position the s'more stick just right and teach her how to turn it. And I could tell as soon as I got over there, she kind of like, once I was holding her, 'cause it was my youngest, that she kind of melted into me a little bit and kind of just enjoyed the comfort of me just being
Yeah.
right there with her versus over there. Hey, tilt it this way, tilt it that. Don't do it this way. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I could change, you know, instead of telling myself I don't need to get up, I changed the story and got up and went over there and sat with her and helped her and kind of looked at the fire, done this a few times.
Yeah.
Let's move over here to roast it a little bit differently.
Yeah. That's great.
So,
I think even and I've told you this before, but the type of father you are, how great. I'd like to say that it's normal, but it's not. And
I definitely got work to do there.
but still, like where you're at and how I've seen you, like there's a story there too. Somehow and whatever. There's stories and everything, but even the fact that that you sat there and was like, you know what, I'm gonna get up. That was you rewriting something because you could have
Yeah, I
sat
didn't
there
want
and
to.
yeah,
I'd rather just tell her because it's hot by the fire. It was already, I mean, it wasn't, at that time of night, it wasn't terrible. But yeah, I'm like, I mean, why not get up and
yeah,
go
yeah, exactly.
help her? Like,
I have
it
a
was a cute
similar
little moment.
story. Not as cute, but oddly enough, it was the night before yesterday. So Gam jumped up on the bed or whatever, and we were about to go to bed. So Tay's getting ready, and I'm just sitting there. And I usually don't have my phone, especially that late at night. I'm off of it, turn it off or whatever, and just have it to the bedside. But I was on it, looking at some golf stuff, and Gamray jumped on the bed, and I didn't talk to her. I didn't say nothing to her. I think I could feel her kind of like looking at me, and then she was like, "All right, good night," and gave me a hug and a kiss, and then went to her room. And when I tell you that I had such a hard time with that, I laid in bed for 10 minutes after we went to bed, and I was like, I can't. I got to get up. I get up. Tay's like, where you going? I got to talk to Gamma real quick. She was already in bed. And I got in bed with her in her bed, and I was like, hey, I just want to apologize. And I think you saw a post that I posted that was like, saying sorry doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you take accountability. And I want to take accountability for that. I was like, hey, I just want to say I'm sorry. She's like, for what? And I was like, I don't want our family to ever be a family that we're just sitting on our phones, especially if you have me in front of you. I want to talk to you. So I just want to say I'm sorry for not talking to you while you were, in the jumped on the bed and said goodnight or whatever. And she was like, it's okay. Like you're fine. Like she's kind of like chuckled about it. And I was like, I know, but I just wanted to apologize. I'm sorry, and that won't happen again. And I gave her a hug and a kiss, and I told her goodnight, and I went to bed. And I hope that at some point in her life she can look at that and be like, okay, that was a story that my dad, because I could have just done nothing.
Yeah.
I could have just sat in my bed, and I wanted to so bad, but in my head I was like, I can't do that. I have to change that. That's not what I want.
It's a life lesson to learn.
Yeah. So it's similar to that, like to you seeing that and be like, I could just sit here and just tell her, hey, do this, do that. But I'm gonna get up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up one more time. Like Ed, and we actually talked about it last night. But you know, those one more times always impact me because you don't know how many more of those you have.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're
Like I hate to take it to that route, but like
no, it's
those
true. I mean,
are
it was
like the last thing I'd ever want. And I think about this all the time, like not say something and then, you know, you just don't
it's like
have the chance to ever again.
yeah. I mean, it's like Jeffrey had said when he came on. You know, reach out to that person. You never know.
No.
You know, you really don't. And there's been a few people over the time that I've been doing that more. Like I went to lunch with a guy I used to work with, but I've seen him grow and grow and grow, and you know, randomly I'll hit him up and just say I'm proud of you. Like,
Yeah. I love
you know, it's awesome that you're doing what you want to do, what you love. Like, and I'm proud that you've taken these steps. And
Yeah.
you know, he was telling me he's like it's always meant a lot to me. He's like, there's times that I'll not be feeling very good, and he's like, it seems to be those times I get something from you. And he's like, I look down, it's like I'm proud of you, and he's like, all right, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And he's like, it helps sometimes you send it at the right moment or whatever he said. But I'm like, I mean, that's what I want to be. Like,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
you're helping those people rewrite maybe some of those
Yeah.
stories that they're dealing with in that moment. That's such a crazy, like, yeah.
I mean, through everything that's happened, I mean, it's reminded me why I'm involved in this
Yeah.
over the last week or two. You know, it's to be able to be there to help people. And if that means we're sharing their stories, helping them possibly change a story or change somebody else's story through their story. I mean, this last couple of weeks has been a pretty good reminder of that's what I love to do, that's what I wanted to do. And now this is my way of doing it.
Yeah. I love it, man. This is a good one, bro.
Yeah.
I liked it. But, yeah, I appreciate you, man. All the stuff that you do, and you know, this is a hell of a journey. But
Yeah, the same goes back to you.
I'm glad that we get to do it together. So
Me too.
cool, man.
It was like when I saw some of those that very first recording we did at the
shoot.
coffee shop, man. When that hit me, I was like, oh my gosh, we've come a long way, and we still got a long way to go. But
Yeah, it was wild.
it was.
That was a wild video.
It's going to keep going. And we appreciate everybody
God.
that listens and watches. And if you guys do find it, we'd love for you to share it, tag us. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be awesome. Get it out more.
Yep.
As always, if you know somebody looking or you know somebody that might have a good story, like, let us know.
Yep.
We're always looking and talking to certain people, but the more we can get in touch with people, the better.
Exactly. Cool, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.